Hello, this is Vince Palomera, and this is 2013 video of a CBS North Carolina affiliate and their little 50th anniversary piece that featured former Secret Service agent Bill Greer. The only known video of him is video of him speaking as well. But what got lost in the shuffle, as I discovered, for lack of a better way of putting it, maybe popularized is a better word, is in this video they show a newsreel I've never seen. It's both agents Don Lawton and Henry Rybka, both of them, Don Lawton, Henry Rybka, walking beside the car. Don Lawton's right beside the car, and right behind him is Henry Rybka. And I'll show this several times. This is Don Lawton, 100% sure, no doubt. And right behind him, and I'll show it again, is Henry Rybka, 100% sure of him as well. And that's based on his report that's in, I believe it's volume 25, where all the other agents are in volume 18. He's in volume 25. And he mentions that he walked beside the limousine, jogged with it. And originally I confused Henry Rybka with Don Lawton. Turns out they both walked or jogged beside the limousine. Both were recalled by Emory Roberts at Love Field. Don Lawton is the agent more famously known as the agent that was recalled at Love Field by Emory Roberts in the WFAA ABC black and white video, because the newsreels only show Henry Rybka, and by the time the video angle shows, I guess Henry Rybka stopped walking beside the limousine and it's only Don Lawton. But here's the video or newsreel again. I'll show it several times. Two gentlemen together. And again, Don Lawton, and that's Henry Rybka. And again, there's no doubt about it, both gentlemen.
Number 3, in response to political staff, agents who usually surround the limousine were pulled away so people could see the president better. One reacted by throwing up his hands in disgust. 3 times he protested, what would prove to be a fatal error. Kennedy was killed by the 3rd shot from a sniper rifle, well after agents, if they had been nearby, could have pulled him out of harm's way.
Bottom line is that they lost the president, and the agents that were there and were responsible at the time have taken that very personally.
Kennedy's death shook the Secret Service.
That was a tragedy for everyone. But like in any tragedy, lessons were learned.
Another one of these videos from YouTube, and this is from somebody, there's no name on it, The Truth Will Out. And I run it again so that you all can deal with what the accusations are. Let's run this, and it's about 1:29. You can watch it on these monitors here and comment on it.
Watch the left side of your screen. The arrow points to agent in charge, Emory Roberts, as he stands in the Secret Service follow-up car and motions with his hand. What he is doing is calling away the president's 2 most important bodyguards, the bodyguards whose job was to protect the president's back by riding on the bumper of the limousine throughout the motorcade. Watch again as he stands and orders the agents running at the rear of the president's car away. Watch the confusion inside the follow-up car that results. Now watch the right side of your screen. The arrow points to one of 2 agents whose job was to hop aboard the bumper and act as human shields. He's obviously perplexed. Watch as he shrugs his shoulders 3 times in dismay, each shrug more dramatic than the last. As you watch this scene for the final time, ask yourself, is this the kind of conduct you would expect from an agency that routinely sends an advance team to a city a month or more prior to the president's arrival in order to make preparations?
Mr. Hill.
Yes. I'd be glad to comment on that. I was the agent on the left rear outside, running alongside the car. The agent on the right rear, working the car, the right rear at that time, is an agent named Don Lawton. Don Lawton's assignment that day was not to ride in the follow-up car. His assignment was to remain at Love Field and handle our return, secure the airport for us when we came back. We were going to fly on to Austin, Texas. And what he was doing was, when he came back off the car, he was saying, okay, you guys, I'm going to lunch. Have a good trip. I talked to him within the last month, and he reiterated to me the same thing again. That's exactly what he was doing. Just making a gesture to us in the follow-up car. See ya. I'm going to lunch. Have a good trip.
Very disappointed. C-SPAN chose to use a very poor copy of the Love Field footage. This thing about the identification of the agent, whether it was Henry Rybka or Don Lawton, the point is moot. The bottom line is the agent was recalled from the car, from the area of the car, by Emory Roberts. And this thing about supposedly the agent said, "Yep, I'm going to go have lunch. It's up to you guys now." No one finds that credible. So that's where I stand on that.
Number 3. In response to political staff, agents who usually surround the limousine were pulled away so people could see the president better. One reacted by throwing up his hands in disgust. 3 times he protested what would prove to be a fatal error.
Okay, that was an official Secret Service documentary shown on the Discovery Channel, originally broadcast in December 2009. It's been shown several times since, including, ironically, before and after the debut of the Kennedy Detail official Secret Service documentary. Several Secret Service agents helped in the production of that production called The Secrets of the Secret Service. Other than Kennedy's staff, they endorse my view, Vince Palomera's view of what that footage shows. Very ironic indeed. Cutting right to the heart of the matter. This is Henry Rybka's non-dated report. Agent Henry Rybka, who for several years I believed was the agent being recalled at Love Field. I was in error. It was an error on my part. In the big scheme of things, so what? Very, very minor. But some people, like Gerald Blaine, would have you believe this is such a big to-do. Read his report and you'll understand why. Okay, once upon arrival at Love Field, Dallas, Texas, aboard Air Force One, I proceeded to the follow-up car 679X and stationed myself at the right front fender of 679X follow-up car and the rear of 100X, which is JFK's car. There I stopped everyone from going in between the cars. Once the motorcade began to move, I moved along with it until the motorcade picked up speed. From this point, I returned to the immediate area of Air Force One. Okay, this is in volume 25, Henry Rybka's report. Okay, so you read that report, okay, and it sounds like it's Henry Rybka. It's undated too, no date. Okay.
One of the other things I found out interestingly enough is there's no truth to this thing about supposedly Kennedy ordered the agents off the back of the limousine.
No, he had nothing to do with that.
I figured that because you know what? William Manchester makes the claim that Floyd Boring was ordered by Kennedy, and I'm quoting what it says in the book, it says, "Keep those Ivy League charlatans off the back of my car."
That is false.
Yes, I found that out, and I talked to William Manchester, who lives in Connecticut, about that, and he got real defensive with me. He says, all those notes are under seal, and I'm not allowing anyone, especially yourself, to look at these rules.
Who was this you were talking to?
William Manchester.
Oh, okay, I talked to William Manchester. He called me on the book.
Yeah, that book is just filled with things.
That is for the record of history, that is false because Jerry Bain knew him very well. You're getting back. I don't know anybody now. They're all gone. I've been retired so long that people came and asked me as retired.
Okay, yeah.
And Jerry Bain was a very good friend. Matter of fact, he was my boss at the White House. And Floyd Boring, he's still alive. Jerry Bain passed away last year, I believe. And Floyd Boring and JFK got along perfect.
Yeah, I can't believe you know what I'm saying? The tremendous damage these books have done, because what happened was, after the Warren Commission, everybody was waiting, I guess, during the 60s for the Manchester and Bishop books, and when people read them, they figured, hey, it must be true, it's in print, and ever since that time, people have been using those as source books. If you notice the bibliographies, and unfortunately, I can't tell you how many times that those myths have been repeated about Secret Service tension with JFK, and also the thing about the agents on the limo. And yeah, now I've got more confirmation on it.
There has never been, in my history, any more rapport with the President of the United States other than possibly Harry S. Truman.
Yeah, that's another one they said.
Harry S. Truman was a jewel just like John F. Kennedy was.
Yeah, they said the only thing that caused
I don't really have too much faith in that.
No, it's bad. Oh, believe me, I'm not just putting any stock into it. Just
Any read, you can't put a hell of a lot of stock.
I'm finding that out. I tell you what, Sam, let's get that point.
That this is true.
No, and I tell you what, I get people that argue with me about this. That, oh, come on, Kennedy was one of the most tough to protect presidents. He always ordered the men off the back of the limo, and now I'm finding out that's not true. You know, because they say they make a big play about supposedly Ford.
Kennedy was one of the easiest ones to ever protect, and this is why most, I would say 99% of the agents, and I'd even like to go 100, but I like to leave the leeway, like the lefty. Leave room for a higher score.
Right.
He was one of the best presidents ever to control.
Oh, okay.
He trusted every one of them.
Boy, I think this is amazing. That I like to. I guess William Manchester got away with this at the time because he was such a highly touted journalist, and he had sort of that Kennedy authorization to do this book, and it just escalated from there.
That's exactly.
Yes. Yes. Did you have any occasion to speak to Mr. Manchester? Oh, okay.
See, I wasn't involved in that at all. I had been on the trip before. The last vacation he had.
Oh, okay, the one down in Florida.
That's right.
Oh, okay, yeah. There's something relating in his book about that too. Supposedly, he makes it out like President Kennedy was real authoritarian and ordered the men off the back of the limousine.
Well, that's not true.
I didn't think that was either. Yeah, Rufus Youngblood, it was one of the things he told me. He says that don't believe Manchester or Bishop. It's very disheartening for being a young researcher looking at books and trying to sift out what's fact and what's not. And you know, the years, this is all becoming history now, and it's very discouraging to find certain things that are in print that aren't true. Right. And you gentlemen were there, and you would know best. And when you were saying it, I believe you 10 times more than I would, William Manchester. Yeah. Oh, well, you were there. That's the problem. But the most alarming thing about this is, sir, is he quotes you in the book, but you're not interviewed in the book in the back section. Oh, yeah. He says that supposedly President Kennedy told you, I'm quoting, keep those Ivy League charlatans off the back of the car. That doesn't sound like... okay. Boy. I tell you, this is amazing. I didn't think so either, because it was gracious enough to indicate all his interviews at the back section of the book, but your name wasn't there. Something, and how can he get a direct quote from a gentleman he never spoke to?
I never told him that.
Yeah. And oh, okay. Oh, I don't want to blame you. I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, just, it's because, boy, you really go a long way back, sir. You were involved with the attempt at Blair House, the Truman, did they ever, I know I'm throwing a lot of things at you at one time, sir, did they ever determine, was it you or Donald Byrd's, like whoever bullet actually hit one of the men? Because it says that, one book I read...
They never did prove it, although the guy said that the guy in the gray suit had hit him. That was Closet.
Oh, okay.
That was the only one that had a gray suit.
I'll tell you what, I think that, I'm not trying to swallow your head up, but I think that's one of the most amazing acts of courage what you guys did that day, because that's never in Secret Service history is something like that happened to that grand scale. Yeah, because, Dallas was just, it happened so quick, and that was not, they never returned any gunfire, but, that was a true test of, because even in the Reagan assassination test, no Secret Service men fired a gun. So actually, this was the first time, the only time maybe, ever in Secret Service history where that's happened. Yeah, but you know what? One thing I discovered, speaking of documents that came out, I was aware of this before, but Stuart Stott was also in Dallas. He was at the trademark.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, oh yeah. It says, oh yeah, according to this document, it says David Grant, Stuart Stott, a man by the name of Richard Johnson.
Right.
Boy, what's his other name? I can't make. Andy Berger.
Right.
Okay. It has Dennis Halterman, but it's scratched out.
That's right. He passed away.
Oh, okay. Yes, these documents came out piecemeal, and they're really hard to read.
How he passed away. Actually, I got it back in there. Although I should know he was there because he died shortly thereafter.
You know, were you involved in any of the planning of the Texas trip? Did you,
Well, no, I technically, I was involved in that, yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you at least give out assignments and so forth? Okay, because see, I guess can't be something. I'm finding this out because in this less than 5 minutes of conversation, you've knocked out a lot of stuff that's in print that I was not taking as the gospel, but I know other people have. I can't tell you how many times I've seen it repeated where President Kennedy told the agents, I guess yourself and other people, get these men off my limousine, don't do this.
That's true.
Okay.
Very nice man.
Yeah, it's
Never interfered with us at all.
that's what I thought. You know, they also said that at the time, you might remember this, that supposedly Mr. Truman, that he was one of the toughest to secure because his Monday morning walks. Oh, isn't it? Oh, okay. Because they said that was like a security man's nightmare because after a while, it was like people were starting to become aware that he went on Monday morning walks. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, basically, yeah, okay. Yeah, one final question. Did you know about supposedly this In the Line of Fire movie is supposed to be the dramatization of Clint Hill? Did you know about that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, supposedly this movie, but it's played by Clint Eastwood. It's supposed to be like just a
Oh, is that right?
composite character of Clint Hill 30 years later.
Oh, good. I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting because when I saw the movie, I could see there was references to Dallas and some other things, and it was pretty. Because in the movie, he says that he went on to guard Mrs. Kennedy, and that's exactly what Clint Hill did. And then it also makes mention of Spiro Agnew, and I checked in one of the books, and sure enough, he guarded Spiro Agnew during when he was vice president. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess to summarize, it's very tough for young people, historians, whatnot, to check these documents. It's a shame because unless you speak to the principals, there's these. I think it's from your reaction, sir, that you weren't aware of some of these things in print, huh?
Well, see, for years I haven't read any of this stuff because I know it's all crap.
That about sums it up. Yeah, very good. Okay, well, hey, I appreciate your time, sir. You really cleared up a lot of mysteries. I'm glad to have everything clarified here. Great. All right, so hey, take care now.
I will.
Thanks. Bye. Yeah, definitely. Take the one from Kennedy. Anybody on the back of the car. Yeah, definitely. Take the one from Kennedy. Anybody on the back of the car. Kennedy. Anybody on the back of the car. See, that's exactly what I was saying. The more I didn't know, ironic, I'm talking to you, and you were sitting in the front seat of the limo. There's film footage of that. And there's two agents hanging onto the back handholds, and, yeah, you know what, most of the time, when you were in their positions and you were sitting in the front seat, and there was, what, Bill Guerrero was sitting with the driver? You were part of the detail went back into at least the Truman era?
Went back to start with Roosevelt before his third inauguration.
Oh, really?
41, January 41.
Oh, okay. I didn't think you were back that far. Okay. Because Stu Manchester's book, I think he alludes to the fact that you were around during the Truman administration. But oh, okay. And you know what, out of curiosity, how long were you in the service? Yeah. Oh, my God. Oh, so you were around for what, early part of the Nixon years, or?
First full term of his inauguration just before I think I transferred in January of 65.
Oh, okay. Okay. Hey, you know what, during the House Select Committee hearings toward in the mid-70s, something I was surprised about is you and Mr. Floyd Boyd became inspectors, and I understand that you considered that a demotion. You weren't? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to clear up some of that. Well, maybe it's apparently just some misinformation out there. Rufus Youngblood, are you familiar with this book? Oh, okay. He came out with a book roughly in the mid-70s, and he mentions the fact that you and fact I put in quotes, that you and Mr. Boring became inspectors in the mid-60s. Maybe that was a bad terminology then, huh?
Right now at Longhorn Steakhouse.
Rufus Youngblood, I guess there was,
Him still around somewhere.
yeah, but he was on 60 Minutes about 20 years ago, but they showed an update last year. Him and his wife visited Dealey Plaza, and he finally got over, I don't know why he ever felt guilty about it in the first place. I guess
Everyone felt that. The job to protect the president, that's all. Everyone felt that.
yeah, that's true. I can see it. Well, you know what? I mean, in that short span of time, that would have been tough to have done anything. You know what I mean?
Well, I know that, but you still have regrets, remorse, whatever. Who knows if they left guys on the back of the car or something. You never know. You second guess. You can hindsight yourself to death.
You know what I mean?
Well, I know that, but you still have regrets, remorse, whatever. Who knows if they left guys on the back of the car or something. You never know. You second guess. You can hindsight yourself to death.
Question number 9. Did your father have any survivors killed over the assassination of JFK? For example, Mrs. Kennedy played the scene over and over in her mind, etc. To the best of my knowledge, my father had absolutely no survivors killed. I believe he figured that events were kind of out of their control. It was pretty common knowledge that a person riding in an open automobile was subject to a bullet at any time. There was really not much you could do if somebody indeed wanted to give up their life in the line of assassinating the president. He only did remark several times that he felt that one thing did kind of bother him about events that did unfold in Dallas. I believe earlier that morning when they left Fort Worth, Texas, heading to Dallas, that it was raining or drizzling or about to rain. And there was some discussion amongst the agents and the White House staff as to whether or not the president would need the hard Lexan bubble top type covering over the limousine when they got to Dallas. And they were going to make their mind up whenever they arrived, to the best of my knowledge, depending upon the weather. But sad to say that when they did arrive at Dallas, it was not raining. The decision was made, and I don't know by whom, not to put the bubble top on. President Kennedy always enjoyed riding in an open vehicle, and they certainly would comply with the president's wishes, and he would indeed choose to ride in the vehicle if weather permitted, and as it was not raining, the bubble top was not used. I think he thought perhaps had it been raining that day, that with the bubble top on, it might have shielded the assassin's view perhaps of the president, or it may have possibly deflected a shot, and the president might have been alive today. As far as survivor's guilt goes, I think that is the only thing that my father ever really gave a second thought to. Everything else, I believe that transpired after the assassination was the best that could have been achieved by the Secret Service and all people involved. Question number 10. About suspects in a conspiracy theory with the recent spotlight on the Secret Service in general and your father in particular. Several books mention that he turned around twice with his foot on the brakes and did not respond to Agent Kellerman's order to get out of line, we've been hit. I do remember vividly my father's recollection of the exact instant that he was aware that something did indeed transpire and things were not going as planned. He did remark that he did indeed hear what he thought were 2 shots, and at the time, though, he did not call them shots or didn't think they were shots. The sound seemed to come from the right rear of the automobile, and it was kind of common being in many parades, especially with motorcycle escorts as they had, that motorcycles would indeed backfire. And my father's first reaction to the first sound was that it was a motorcycle backfire. He heard the sound a second time, just seconds afterwards, and he did indeed glance into the rearview mirror, and to the best of my knowledge, my father reported that he did indeed see blood on Governor Connolly's shirt. He glanced over his shoulder at that time, saw that the governor was indeed hit and slouching down in the seat. To the best of my recollection, he did not see anything of the president, who was sitting further back in the limousine. Pretty much at the same time, Agent Kellerman did indeed say that they needed to get out of line. They had been hit, and my father stepped on the accelerator to the best of my knowledge, and they were headed off to Parkland Hospital.
This is a man named Vince Palomara. Do you know him?
I'm familiar with him. I don't know him.
He says that, I guess, we'll talk about this, that he sent you a 22-page letter.
I recall receiving a letter which I sent back to him. I didn't bother with it.
You didn't talk to him ever?
He called me and I said hello, but that was about it.
Yeah, Clint Hill is claiming that he returned my letter and he didn't bother with it. Okay? Lisa McCubbin, the co-author of Gerald Blaine's book, The Kennedy Detail, claimed on Facebook that he threw it in the garbage. Perhaps the biggest contradiction of all is Gerald Blaine was quoting from the letter to me when I spoke to the gentleman on June 10th, 2005. So we got 3 different stories. Clint Hill's claiming here that he returned it to me. He did not return it to me. I received his signed receipt that he received it. He did not return it. Lisa McCubbin is claiming that he threw it away without reading it. And the evidence that indicts them the most is Gerald Blaine quoted from the letter to me, again, on June 10th, 2005.
And this man's name is Vince Palomara. He's a citizen who has taken it on his own to become an expert. He's from Pennsylvania, and I don't know him. I've never talked to him. I've just seen it on the web. And he is, I believe he's a graduate of Duquesne University. So let's watch this and I'll get your reaction to it.
Hi, this is Vince Palomara, the self-described Secret Service expert that Jerry Blaine accuses me of without naming me, okay? Back with my obsession about the Kennedy detail. I gotta read this. This is rich. Page 287. This is what Blaine's claiming Raleigh said. Raleigh turned to Jerry Blaine, and Jerry, since you were in the lead car, did you ever hear this over your radio as well? Yes, sir, I did. I heard exactly what Floyd just told you. The thing about this is the whole thing about the Ivy League charlatans thing. Jerry Blaine told me the Ivy League charlatans thing came from the guys. I can't remember who said it. Boy, his memory got real good 5 years later, because now he's claiming he heard it over the radio, Floyd Boring, okay? Just unbelievable. It's just amazing to me, you know? There never would have been a book if I didn't send a 22-page letter, okay? to Clint Hill that pissed him off so much that his very good friend Jerry Blaine came out with this book as a counter, okay? There's some nice things I recommend everybody to buy. On Line to Censorship. This is my First Amendment rights, okay? It's got some nice pictures, some nice non-assassination things, and there's even some good assassination-related things in here. But it's very obvious. It's other people picked up on it. That's why there's some really bad reviews on Amazon right now. Mine's the best of the bunch at 3 stars, too. It's very obvious. It's a thinly veiled attempt to rewrite history and to blame President Kennedy without trying to blame him for his own assassination.
First of all, his is not the best of the reviews. There are 7 with 5 stars, just in case for the record, that I saw today when I looked on Amazon. What's your reaction? Could you hear?
Well, he wrote an assessment of the book about the first time about 5 weeks before it was released. The second time on Amazon.com, he and 4 of his friends, or 4 of his aliases, put a statement on assessing the book a 1, a 2, and a 3. My assessment of Mr. Palomera is that he called probably all of the agents, and what agent who answers a phone is going to answer a question, was President Kennedy easy to protect? Well, probably he was too easy to protect because he was assassinated. But the fact that the agents aren't going to tell him anything, and he alludes to the fact that when I wrote the book, most of these people were dead. Well, I worked with these people. I knew them like brothers, and I knew exactly what was going on. And I always respected Jim Rowley because he stood up to the issue and said, look, we can't say the president invited himself to be killed, so let's squash this. So that was the word throughout the Secret Service.
This is Rich. Gerald Blaine is saying, my assessment of Mr. Palomera is that he called probably all the agents, which is true. And what agent who answers the phone is going to answer a question, was President Kennedy easy to protect? You did, Mr. Blaine. February 7th, 2004 and June 10th, 2005 to be exact. And many of your colleagues echoed the same thing. That JFK was a very nice man, never interfered with the actions of the Secret Service, and did not order the agents off the limousine. Picking up where Blaine left off. Well, he probably was too easy to protect because he was assassinated. Jeez, that's really nice to know, Mr. Blaine. Again, a quote from Blaine here. But the fact that the agents aren't going to tell him anything, you told me a whole bunch of things in our 45-minute conversations, plural, times 2, on those dates I mentioned. And many of your colleagues told me much of value. And he alludes to the fact that when I wrote the book, most of these people were dead. Yes, it's very relevant. Again, back to Blaine. Well, I worked with these people. I knew them like brothers, and I knew exactly what was going on, and always respected Jim Rowley because he stood up to the issue and said, look, we can't say the president invited himself to be killed, so let's squash this. 47 years later in Blaine's book, as I've covered in my Citizens for Truth and Kennedy Assassination online reviews and my blogs and whatnot, he's claiming in his book that there was a morning of JFK's funeral meeting of the Secret Service that Chief Rowley said, look, we know the president ordered us off the back of the car. But we can't let the public know about this because then they'll think we're blaming the president for his own death. We got to cover this up. Ironically, by telling this sordid tale, that's exactly what the book achieves. It does blame Kennedy for his own death by revealing this meeting. I do not believe this meeting took place at all. I think it's a total fabrication. There is no evidence for it whatsoever. That's just my opinion, based on the fact that there's a lack of evidence. It's very slick, though, because there probably was a security meeting to discuss the upcoming walk to St. Matthew's Cathedral with Jacqueline Kennedy, Haile Selassie, Charles de Gaulle, and all the dignitaries. But the bottom line is everyone he's mentioning that attended this alleged meeting are long dead. There's no corroboration. And furthermore, the agents that spoke to me or wrote to me provided substantive details that go against this alleged meeting. The advance agents supposedly were told. No, they weren't. Winston Lawson told me in a letter, a complete stranger. Why would he lie? Said, I don't know of any standing orders for the agents to be up the back of the car. It never came to my attention as such. It never came to his attention as such. According to Jerry Blaine's book, there was a meeting.
Mr. Palomera, there are a number of things that have happened, but he has no credibility. He's a self-described expert in his area, which I don't know what it is. He was born after the assassination, and he keeps creating solutions to the assassination until they're proven wrong. So he's...
Yeah, like your attorney sending me a certified letter asking me to take down a blog where you guys were alleging I was saying that I was a co-author of the book. I wasn't saying that at all. I even noted it came from Lisa McCubben's blog. I was just advertising the book. But that was a shot across the bow, wasn't it, Mr. Blaine? To try to put a scare in me. Didn't work. The truth shall prevail. I know what you said. I know what all your friends said. I have letters of them. I have some of them on audio tape. It is what it is, to use the common vernacular. And a quote from your book where you say that I stabbed your brothers in the back with baseless accusations. Hey, don't kill the messenger for giving you bad news. These gentlemen, including yourself, told me what they told me to a complete stranger on the phone, and or they wrote it, put it in writing. I mean, the consensus is overwhelming. It's a landslide that JFK did not order the agents off the back of the car, nor did he interfere with the actions of the Secret Service. You were a private in the Secret Service. Jerry Bain was the Douglas MacArthur of the Secret Service, #1 agent. His #2 assistant, Floyd Boring, also said the same thing. Kennedy never ordered the agents off the back of the car. So that's where I stand on the matter. He also says that he has no credibility. Well, we'll be the judge of that, won't we? He says he is a self-described expert in this area, which I don't know what it is. Well, self-described people as diverse as Vince Bugliosi, the History Channel, the Assassination Record Review Board, and even ironically Brian Lamb have called me a Secret Service expert. I mean, it is what it is. He was born after the assassination. Okay, and so was your co-author Lisa McCubben. And your point is?
He alleges that because he sent me a letter, 22 pages in length apparently, and that I discussed that with Jerry. I forgot that I ever got a 22-page letter from this particular individual until I heard him say it on TV. And I never discussed it with Jerry or anybody else because it wasn't important to me. And insofar as him being an expert, I don't know where the expert part came from. I spent a long time in the Secret Service in protection, and I'm not an expert, but apparently he became an expert somewhere up in Pennsylvania. I don't know where. People claim that they're experts. They have no basis to make that claim. I was a special agent in charge of Vice President Protection, special agent in charge of Presidential Protection, and Assistant Director of Protective Forces for the United States Secret Service. I'm not an expert, but apparently some of these people out there who write these books and concoct these theories are experts.
People as diverse as Vince Bugliosi, the History Channel, the Assassination Record Review Board, and even ironically Brian Lamb have called me a Secret Service expert. I mean, it is what it is.
The fellow we talked about in the last interview, Vince Palomara,
yeah.
You've seen his letter? No, he's been critical of...
Well, I'll accept his
Are
endorsement.
you worried that he's being...
Well, maybe he has some secret agenda, I don't know.
The most painful theories point fingers at the agents themselves.
I read where Pontius was part of it because he disappeared after Houston. A conspiracy for the agents to shoot the president. I mean, this is off the wall.
The Zapruder film, when the Zapruder film is run at normal speed, another theme that Palomera throws out is that Bill Greer stopped the car. When it's run at its normal speed, you'll notice the car absolutely does not stop at all. This happened in less than 6 seconds after the president was hit in the throat and moving along. Then all of a sudden everybody broke down the Zapruder film to frame by frame, slowed it down, and they created a myth to almost every frame of what was going on. And you'll notice too that when Mrs. Kennedy comes over after the first shot, she is directly in front of the president's face. And people have accused Bill Greer of pulling a gun out and shooting the president. He'd have had to shoot through the Conleys, and he'd have had to shoot Mrs. Kennedy. And the same thing holds for anybody on the grassy knoll. Had they fired, they'd have probably injured Mrs. Kennedy in it too. These are the myths that come about. People create a myth or a theory, but they forget all the other facts that are going on.
Okay, Jerry Blaine saying, when the Zapruder film was running normal speed, another theme that Palomera throws out is that Bill Greer stopped the car. When it's running normal speed, you will notice the car absolutely does not stop at all. Well, a couple things I have to say about that. Close to 60 witnesses, including 7 Secret Service agents and Jacqueline Kennedy, said the car either slowed down or stopped. Don't kill the messenger for giving the bad news. All these men and women said what they said, wrote what they wrote. Okay, they were all eyewitnesses. They were there, Jerry. You weren't. You were in Austin, okay? They said the car slowed down and stopped, or just slowed down. Not that they all said it stopped. And as far as it not showing in the Zapruder film, well, Louis Alvarez and other people studied the film, and actually you could see the car slow down. And the major issue is there's a lot of people think the Zapruder film was tampered with. I don't mean the crazy theories where it was a total cartoon, nonsense like that, but frames were removed. All those witnesses, and now the Zapruder film doesn't show a dramatic slowdown like all those witnesses claimed there were. No one's buying it. Who had access to the Zapruder film? Who owned it at first? The Secret Service. Says it all. In this comment you make, this happened in less than 6 seconds after the president was hit in the throat and moving along. Oh, the president was hit in the throat, huh? In the throat. From the front? What's the deal with that? You know what it is? I don't know. You guys just can't get your story straight. Can't get your facts straight. At least if you guys are going to counter someone on the other side like me, be well prepared. That's embarrassing. Well, good luck making your money off the man that you were sworn to protect. Have a nice day.
The most painful theories point fingers at the agents themselves.
I read where Pontius was part of it because he disappeared after Houston. A conspiracy for the agents to shoot the president. I mean, this is off the wall.
One of the agents shot him, and all the crap. Everybody's having a field day.
One of the conspiracy theories is that the agents left the president's car unguarded just before the shots were fired.
The motorcade had finished the crowd portion of the route and was about to hit the Stebbins Freeway, therefore going freeway speed. No agents were on the back of the car and would not ever be on the back of the car in those conditions.
This thing about the freeway, they were going too fast, that's bunk, because there's many trips where the agents were on the back of the car at very fast speeds. This is the lead advanced agent for Dallas, Winston Lawson. Keep in mind, the lead advanced agent for Dallas, Winston Lawson. This is an amazing letter he wrote me in January 12th, 2004. I do not know of any standing orders for the agents to stay off the back of the car. After all, foothold and handholds were built into that particular vehicle. I am sure it would have been on a case-by-case basis depending on the event, intelligence, threats, etc. Keep in mind, ostensibly, officially, allegedly, there were no threats found in Dallas. Jerry Bain, as special agent in charge of the White House detail, as it was known then, Presidential Protective Division currently, would have been privy to that type of info more than I. See my other video where Bain adamantly denies that President Kennedy ever ordered the agents off the car. However, it never came to my attention as such. I am certain that agents were on the back on certain occasions. Again, I do not know of any standing orders for the agents to stay off the back of the car. However, it never came to my attention as such. This totally debunks the Kennedy detail. Here's the fateful Tampa motorcade of November 18th, 1963. This is Congressman Sam Gibbons. There's JFK, Senator Smathers, Agent Don Lawton, Agent Chuck Zaboril, Agent Floyd Boring, Agent Bill Greer. Let's focus on Congressman Gibbons. What did Congressman Gibbons have to say about the whole notion of JFK allegedly ordering the agents off the car in Tampa? Here's what he told me in this letter dated January 15th, 2004, years before the Kennedy detail saw the light of day. I rode with Kennedy every time he rode. I heard no such order. As I remember it, the agents rode on the rear bumper all the way. Kennedy was very happy during his visit to Tampa. Sam Gibbons. This is an amazing letter from Dave Powers, arguably JFK's best friend for years and the former curator of the JFK Library. September 10th, 1993. Okay. Also, unless they were running along beside the limo, the Secret Service rode in a car behind the president, so no, they never had to be told to get off the limo. Also, unless they were running along beside the limo, the Secret Service rode in a car behind the president, so no, they never had to be told to get off the limo. That destroys the Kennedy detail right there. And the whole notion of the O'Donnell Powers staff notion, too. This is a fantastic book written by Helen O'Donnell called A Common Good, The Friendship of Robert F. Kennedy and Kenneth P. O'Donnell. There's Kenny O'Donnell. There's Helen O'Donnell, his daughter. This book, much of the material in this book has been gathered from the private tapes of my father, Kenneth P. O'Donnell. Okay, so she has her vivid memory in private audio tapes of my father, Kenneth P. O'Donnell. When I wrote to her, really sweet lady, Dear Vince, thank you for your friend requesting your note, blah, 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 blah. Suffice to say that you are correct. JFK did not order anybody off the car. He never interfered with my dad's direction on the Secret Service, and this is much backed up my dad's tapes. JFK did not order anybody off the car. He never interfered with my dad's direction on the Secret Service, and has much backed up in my dad's tapes. I think and know from the tapes, Dallas always haunted him, meaning O'Donnell, because of the might-have-beens. But they involved the motorcade route. He constantly questioned his own decision to take the motorcade in that direction, but he never blamed the Secret Service. The important thing, JFK did not order anybody off the car. This is much backed up in my dad's tapes. Kenny O'Donnell, you've been vindicated. The Kennedy Detail, that book by Gerald Blaine, the Kennedy Detail has been thoroughly debunked. This is Assistant Special Agent in Charge number 3 Agent Roy Kellerman, ostensibly the agent in charge of the Texas trip. Ostensibly, but it was really fully boring. Roy Kellerman died in March 1984. Here's his widow, who, by the way, passed away in 2006. This is what she said to me in 1997 in a letter. I spoke to her a couple times, too. Dear Mr. Palomera, the answer to your question is no. Roy did not say that JFK was difficult to protect.
Here. Was killed. The Secret Service agents normally walk directly beside the car on either side. We do not see any in this photograph, but usually 2 or 3 Secret Service agents will walk on either side of the car so that they are there to spot anyone who looks like a troublemaker.
Last Monday marked the 30th anniversary of the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Next, we take you to the campus of Southern Methodist University for a conference on what journalists remember of that fateful day. Panels include journalists who were in Dallas on November 22, 1963, as they discuss efforts by radio, television, and newspapers to stay on top of the story.
Before this thing developed, the Kennedy arrival, we assigned responsibilities to certain photographers. I personally had the president as my responsibility while he was in Dallas. We had, of course, other people at certain locations. I was to get the arrival at Love Field and the parade and the luncheon. Those were my responsibility. And it is important that the president's pictures were my responsibility. So at Love, everything went fine up to the point that the whole day became great frustration for a photographic person. First thing, parades were usually handled with a flatbed truck for pool and certain selected photographic personnel to ride in front of the presidential car on presidential parades. That was canceled at the last minute. We were put in Chevrolet convertibles to ride several cars back. I think we were about 6 cars, Bob Jackson and I, and a couple of other boys were in this parade. And that put us totally out of the picture.
We'd just been down Main Street with people hanging out of the windows of we saw a limousine slow for a minute and lurch forward. A limousine slow for a minute, limousine slow for a minute, limousine slow for a minute, so we knew something terrible had happened.
This is not to be shown publicly, but that guy slowed down. Maybe his orders was to slow down where the rest of the guys.
This is Greer, the driver of the presidential limousine.
Yeah, presidential limousine slowed down almost to a stop.
Very clearly, but it was almost inconceivable at that stage that this was an assassination. For the car that the president was traveling came to an immediate stop, came to an immediate stop, came to an immediate stop.
I thought someone had threw a firecracker down on the ground just to be smart. But then they came, the procession kept coming, and then the second and the third shot rang out. Well, I knew it was being shot at. I knew that was what was happening. The car got right beside me where I was at, and it actually stopped momentarily. And I heard Jackie Kennedy say, "Oh, God, no, no." And I heard John Connolly say, "They're going to shoot us all."
With that background, I'm going to jump to Dealey Plaza. I was on the White House press bus. We were on Houston. I was looking across the plaza when we heard the shots. I remember 3 shots. And I've always had a memory, matter of fact, I've had nightmares about it, of the sunlight on Kennedy and the explosion, the car almost coming to a stop, almost to a dead stop, and then accelerating at tremendous speed. So I knew, his instinct, I knew that he had been shot, at least shot at.
But what I couldn't really believe, as someone else mentioned, was the car had, after that first shot, had come practically to a stop. And later on, in looking back on, I said I could not believe how well-trained Secret Service people reacted so slowly. I would have expected that from ordinary human beings, but I expected that they would have reacted much quicker, because I've always felt in my mind that I knew the first shot missed. I had never wavered on that, and I see now that it's getting a lot of support. But I said that from day one, that the first shot missed. I've never changed my mind on that. I felt the second shot was not a mortal blow. So I felt that had there been proper reaction time, that the man might still be alive today. I said that the shots appeared to have come from behind me and to my right. And I did say seemed to. I didn't say they did come from that direction. And secondly, I had spoken to my friends just prior to the event, suggesting that the grassy knoll would be the perfect spot for an assassin. So I said it was somewhat like self-fulfilling prophecy, that when it happened, I naturally expected to have come from where I had predicted it would come from.
The president's friend, Dave Powers, now director of the Kennedy Library in Boston, remembers talking to a grief-stricken Bill Greer.
the Secret Service agent who drove Kennedy's car. What if they'd sped out of Dealey Plaza after the first shots, but before the fatal one?
I found it always, and so did he, you know, but Bill, all those agents were very close to us, and that they felt so bad.
If the driver of the president's car had stepped on the gas after the first two shots,
yes, that president would be alive today.
And there was just an instantaneous, sort of an instant's pause, and in the motorcade it momentarily halted, and 3 or 4 more shots rang out, and they sped away real quickly.
For firing the shot. It's most unusual, incidentally, that such a thing could happen because of the unusually tight security measures that are ordinarily taken by the Secret Service who guard the president. And normally any vantage point, a rooftop, and windows which command a parade route are carefully scrutinized and carefully guarded, and men are usually posted on rooftops along a parade route, particularly if there is any reason at all to suppose that there might be someone in the area who would have such ideas as assassination in his mind regarding the president. These precautions, of course, are taken by the Secret Service for all presidents, as they have been for many years.
Only happens at night.
Prostitution, that's illegal. Procurement is illegal. And if you have a procurer with prostitutes paraded in front of you, then as a sworn law enforcement officer, you're asking yourself, well, what do they think of us?